So, welcome back to the sports psychology themes, the second part. This is Konstantin Papageorge, the creator of the Distal Method, coach development for tennis. And let's go on with our presentation, the theme of leadership. Of course, it is expected for a coach or tennis sport, and in tennis as well, to be a leader. One coach has to take up many different roles. We have already seen that of the empowering action coordinator, a teacher, a pedagogist, a leader, sometimes even a manager. Leadership is the process by which a visionary influences others to achieve goals, whereas management is providing resources and support to get the job done. As maybe it's known, the leader inspires and leads. Sometimes the role of manager is important as well, but one should be very careful that the role they choose is deliberately chosen. It's not by luck. And oftentimes a coach, especially if the coach is not very motivated, he's just a manager that just uses resources or provides resources for the class to go on. The authentic leader has some, let's say, classic characteristics. They have a purpose. They have a higher purpose. They have a purpose permeated by values. Values are predispositions of character that lead to well-being. This is a classic definition, the Aristotelian definition of the values. These two, as well as self-discipline, is something that the leader does not fake. They stem originally from the inside, but they also show. It shows. Okay, it's like they're shining in the face of the authentic leader. The authentic leader builds authentic relationships. Recently, I was speaking to a friend of mine, a martial arts practitioner, and he told me that he changed his teacher, because he was very pleased by the technical level of the teacher and so on and so forth, but he didn't like his attitude. He was more like a manager, more like someone trying to make a living or trying to make money. So he wasn't available emotionally to develop original relationships. Heart. Now that sounds a bit vague, doesn't it? Is it that vague? I have put this lithograph here to show you that the heart has a very big electromagnetic field, and this electromagnetic field is the strongest one in the human body. And for some, the heart is like a sensor, okay, a sensing organ then, and it interacts with the fields of other people. There are some courses that are related exactly to how one should use the capacities of the heart that are related to feeling, to leading a more successful life, to having more pleasure in life, to having a more balanced body, biorhythms and stuff like that. In the US, HeartMath is a company founded to study exactly this phenomenon. I'm not a certified coach, but maybe you should be. It's a good idea. However, I have done some courses regarding the way heart functions and how we can use specific tools to make very useful interventions in that and remove blockings, for example, and increase some important capacities. My teacher, Nikolos Magalios, was also my teacher in the neurolinguistic programming, and he returned from the US, and after attending this course, and he founded Heartpedia, an organization that is doing training regarding to heart matters. The course I attended, it was the path of the heart, and that was some years ago with Nikolaos. So, what are the leader qualities? It's integrity, flexibility, loyalty, confidence, accountability. Accountability, something that politicians, I guess everywhere in the world, but especially here in Greece, don't really have. So they just wish to have power, but no accountability. However, power and accountability and responsibility go hand in hand, hand by hand. Honesty, preparedness to deal with the unexpected, resourcefulness, because everybody is a leader when everything goes the right way, and patience. That's a very critical characteristic, mind you. So, there is a whole part, a whole set of chapters in sports psychology that has to do with psychological skills training, because it's nice to describe capacities and characteristics and ideas and concepts, but what can we do about them? The first question is about mental toughness. That's a very important thing when it comes to sports psychology, and someone could potentially ask, for me, mental toughness is important. Can I achieve that? Is there? Yes, there is mental toughness. It has some characteristics. For example, as far as control is concerned, the individual is influential and not influenced or controlled. The commitment goes beyond and against difficulties, because if we are committed until the limit of the difficulty, where the difficulties start, that's not real commitment. Okay. The mindset treats threats as opportunities when it gets challenged, and confidence, as was the case with commitment, does not stop when setbacks occur. Okay. So, psychological skills training is a way to develop the host of characteristics, the set of characteristics that make up mental toughness, which is, of course, a very good characteristic. Who is psychological skills training for? Is it only for problematic athletes? This reminds us of psychotherapy. Of course, it's not at all for problematic individuals or athletes. It's for everyone. Everyone needs to develop skills. It's like asking who is technical practicing technique for. Okay, it's for everybody, and not only for elite training. I mean, it's for every child. From the moment they learn technique, it's time for them to learn some basics and simple stuff as far as psychological skills training is concerned. And as is the case, for example, the coach might or should choose to teach technique using gamification and not direct technical data or instructions. The same thing could be with psychological skills training. So the coach should always have psychological skills in their mind, the coaches in their mind, and apply relevant techniques all the time, or create a framework where psychological skills training is taken into consideration. It doesn't work quickly, as the technical part of the sport is concerned. It takes time, takes many years, and as it is the case with the deliberate practice idea concept, you do it forever. And if you stop doing it, if you stop training it, at some times arrested performance comes, and from a point on, the performance even deteriorates. So performance, PST is not for Goran Ivanisevic. I was reading one of his statements, and he said about psychological skills training, you learn a coach, they take your money, and you walk out more bananas than when you walk in. I had a similar experience with a known top player. The thing is that if you go to even a 17-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old athlete that is in some way a perfected athlete, I mean, what I'm saying is just that's not accurate. You're never a perfected athlete, but I mean, you have been developing for many years, and you have some things in mind that are concrete, for the better or the worse, anyway. And if you go to such an athlete and you try to change some things, develop some skills, or question some things or some skills in relation to mental skills training, because they have never even imagined that some things are trainable or some things could be otherwise, they really feel uneasy, uncomfortable with the idea. So one more reason that you should start this type of training early is that athletes should get used to it, because it's very important. And no matter where the athlete gets, they could get there easier, they could get there without having to solve other life issues as well, because they accumulate, they don't go away, or maybe, that's even better, they could get even further in their career. There are three general phases of psychological skills training. It's the educational phase, where you speak about the skill, so that the athlete creates a map, a mental map about what's going on, what's going to happen. The acquisition phase, where the skill, the mental skill, is taught to the athlete, and the practice, which might be from days to weeks to years. So if you learn, for example, mental imagery, you practice it forever, maybe. Okay. Another question is, can coaches do psychological skills training? I mean, the most obvious argument is that the sports psychologist sees the athlete once every, let's say, week, or every 10 days, once a month, in a month, but the coach is every day with the athlete. And my answer is yes, they should. I have already forwarded the concept of contributory expert generalist as the role of the coach, or as a way a coach should have their expertise, and they should be also a type of experts in not everything that has to do with psychological skills training, but at least in some aspects. I was talking with a famous father, a famous tennis player father, and he doesn't know this method, but we had a conversation about it, and I was trying to explain this notion of contributory expert journalists, and he was like, "Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean? The USA Tennis Association, the Professional Tennis Association, they have like 5 or 10 super sports psychologists with PhDs, with papers, with whatever. I mean, do you suggest replacing them? Of course not. Okay, the contributory expert generalist, if the coach has this quality, he's a contributor expert generalist, it's not that they will do research, it's not that they will focus on the psychological skills training of the player or do everything related to PST, to PST. That's not their, let's say, job, it's not their career, but they should know very well the limited amount of tools they do use, not just, let's say, use them like monkeys. They should read papers, read bibliography, get educated, do courses, do specialized courses, get certified. Okay, but their primary goal is to be tennis coaches, not sports psychologists or physical conditional trainers and so on and so forth. But as tennis coaches, as being contributor expert journalists, they should be competent in doing their part correctly. Okay, and that's very important for another reason. They should be able, and this is a model that has been, of course, forwarded more formally by Harry Collins. He's a professor and he deals with, his subject area is the STS, science and studies in science and technology and science, and interactional expertise and empirical expertise are also some concepts that he introduced. And one thing a coach should do is being able to evaluate a sports psychologist, not formally, but be knowledgeable enough so as to have an idea of how competent a sports psychology that he chooses to incorporate in the team is. Okay, that's very important. But if I don't have a good grasp of sports psychology and its foundations and its techniques and its tools, how am I going to decide? Am I just going to, I don't know, to believe in his authority or something like that? There are problems, of course, with this. For example, maybe the athlete has secrets or confessions that make them feel unease. Okay, so maybe it's not a good idea to have a coach being the psychotherapist in the classic Western way of an athlete, of their own athletes, because maybe they have secrets or they have points of view that they don't want to share with the coach, exactly because they have this kind of relationship, and some things may even concern their coaches and they don't want, they feel embarrassed, for example. Okay, so they can develop skills and they can use some skills coming from neuro-linguistic programming, which are very helpful in that sense, because in NLP you don't have to know the problem. So maybe an athlete comes and they say, I feel embarrassed about something, or I feel afraid about something, and the trainer can say, the coach can say, okay, you don't need to tell me what it is, we're going to do a technique, just connect with that feeling and follow the steps of the technique. Okay, so that's very helpful in that sense. And of course, classic psychotherapy, that is mostly for clinical cases. It's not something a coach should attempt. Okay. There are 10 principles, or we can refer to 10 principles about mental training. It can't replace physical training, although even though it goes a long way. But physical training, on the other hand, is not enough by its own. It's said that strong minds don't always win medals, but weak minds never do. Coaches frequently don't know their athletes' thoughts, so they take too many things for granted, and such a program might help the coaches as well to be more friendly or more adaptive to their athletes' real needs. The thoughts do affect behavior. They're not disconnected. And when I'm saying thoughts, okay, because we're always talking about mental principles, training and stuff like that. It's not just the mental side, but when we say mental, we also mean emotional, we also mean symbolic, okay? So it's not just the mind, it's also other components as well, but generally we refer to it as mental. Exactly as we have technical mistakes, we also have mental mistakes, and exactly the way we treat technical mistakes, we should treat mental mistakes too. Okay, do some interventions, use some tools, put the athlete practice some things. The athletes get better or they don't get better. You reevaluate the situation, so on. Coaches must be involved one way or another. Okay, they should be interested in this process and they should try to contribute positively in it, at least. And sometimes they do have to force it. For example, an athlete may be very upset, okay, or may be very angry because he's losing. It's not their day and they're losing their serves, let's say in training. It's okay for the athlete to say something like, I mean, you know, not every time, but just sometimes when it's too much, say that, okay, I know you don't want to do it, it's understandable because you're in this state of mind now, in this emotional state, but as you practice your physical skills, please do this exercise now to control your emotions a bit better and improve this aspect as well, and please do it now. I know you don't want it, but please go and do this, for example, EFT practice, okay? Mental training is not something vague, it should be measurable. That's why tests and batteries should be used, and coaches need it too. Okay, coaches are athletes as well. They are experts. They have to perform and maybe perform under not favorable conditions. So they need mental training as well to prepare, to develop skills of any kind. Okay. How do we reduce anxiety? We have already seen progressive relaxation. Progressive relaxation is the way to start the relaxation response from the body, from the part of the body. If we do that from the part of the mind, then it's autogenic relaxation, which uses self-suggestions. Hypnosis is also something that one could use. Self-hypnosis is also called, more or less, self-suggestion. Okay, and breath control. You know, breathing has a peculiarity. It's the only system in the human body that it's both conscious and unconscious. So if I'm not thinking about it, it's performed on its own. But if I think about it, I can control it. So maybe you can view it as a very good bridge from the unconscious to the conscious, or from the conscious to the unconscious. So it's really important, really helpful to use breath control generally, and not just to reduce anxiety, but to adjust arousal, to help you do relaxation or do imagery, to fill up with energy. You can see many applications of breathing exercises. We can adjust arousal using music, for example. As I have been telling you, I have a problem with Western music because it's on the tempered system. So maybe you could use something like hemisync music or holosync music or holo music as it's called, that has frequencies under the music. So you listen to the music, but it also has a frequency that each frequency has a different result anyway. But be attention, because it's not very usual, but it can happen. What one could have some form of epilepsy, and you never know. You never know who has a predisposition towards epilepsy, but just have that in mind, okay? Because it could be a trigger that could affect like 1% or 0.5% of the population, but it's always there, okay? So have that in mind. You could use anchors or routines, okay, on the spot, anchors especially, and established routines. And you could use mental imagery. So what about imagery? Imagery is a form of mental simulation, a very effective form of mental simulation. For imagery, there is a classic, I'd say, anecdote. It has happened. So there was a research protocol, and okay, in this examination, this research protocol, there were two teams, one of course doing imagery and one not doing imagery. Okay, so the results of the team that was doing mental imagery were so impressive that the research protocol stopped. They stopped the experiment, and they said that okay, everybody wants to do imagery, so we won't have a team that doesn't do mental imagery. So it has 5 characteristics. The modality, when I'm imagining, repeating an activity, what sense or which senses do I use? Do I use my eyes only, or my hearing as well, or my smell? Supposedly, the more modalities, the better, the more lively the experience. Perspective has to do with internal or external. In internal, I live the experience from within my body, so I see, for example, with my own bodies, and in external imagery, I see my body from somewhere else. And I see it from the side, from above, or from wherever. And in the external, there are angles also. I already referred to that. Are you far away from yourself, close by? Are you from above, from the side, etc. Agency is about roles. So I do imagery, and who am I during this? For example, I could be myself, or I could be my ideal perfect, my idea of the perfect tennis player. I could be a famous tennis player, okay, and this is also a good idea. For example, I transform to my idol and I serve as they serve, okay. And deliberation. What is my consciousness level doing while doing imagery? Am I half asleep? Do I control the process fully? Am I dreaming? Okay, and as a side note here, the best form of imagery, I won't go not at all into that, okay, it's just an idea, just for you to say that, okay, I have heard that as well. And do your research. The best possible way to do imagery, okay, if I could even call that imagery, that's an extreme, let's say, the most extreme form of imagery and the most effective form of imagery is actually lucid dreaming, is to be able to keep your consciousness while dreaming. This is a skill that one may develop and perfect, and there are exercises, and it's a whole world actually. The use of imagery, many uses. We can improve concentration, enhance motivation, build confidence, control emotions, acquire and practice skills. We can use it before the competition to prepare ourselves, or after the competition to correct our mistakes. And this reminds me of a motto in the neuro-linguistic programming that says this: you can live a good childhood even if you haven't lived one. So you recreate, you live it, and it's as if you have actually experienced that. It relieves pain and it helps the process of healing. That's a reality. For example, you can have a broken leg. If you do imagery, for example, if you imagine that there are workers that are building your knee or your bone, it happens faster actually. Okay. And you can solve problems. Self-confidence is another idea that is important for sports. Okay, self-confidence is multidimensional. That is, there is not one recipe or one factor that affects it. Self-confidence is something that is durable. No, it's meaningless to speak of self-confidence and at the face of the first difficulty to lose it. Okay, it's developed. It's not just inherited, and some people have it, some people don't have it. It's protective. It protects the sense of ourselves. It protects our feelings. It protects our motivation to go on. Okay, if we have self-confidence, setbacks are not so destructive. Okay, and it is on the borderline of arrogance. So overconfident is maybe another word for arrogant person. Okay, but you know, sometimes you have to go to the extremes before you find the perfect, the optimum level of self-confidence. Again, supposedly there is an inverted U relationship between confidence and performance. So if you are underconfident, that's bad for performance, and if you are overconfident, that's also bad for performance. Again, this is not absolute for everybody. It has to do with the individual. Here's just the general idea. The sources of self-confidence, it's about winning. The more you win, the more someone wins, the more self-confident they become. But it's multidimensional. So the master of the skill, if you feel that you have a very good form, for example, the technical form, it helps your self-confidence. If you can stay focused on your goals, that helps also self-confidence. Physical appearance, what do I mean? You're a tennis player, okay, or a swimmer, and you take out your t-shirt and you have a nice body, a six-pack maybe, you feel very nice, you're a good athlete, you have an athletic body, so that's a source of self-confidence, for example, okay. Or anyway you think that physical appearance is good. I mean, six packs, it's just a value judgment, okay? It's not the absolute measure of a good physical appearance, of course not, okay? I'm just giving you an idea, an image. The leadership skills of the coaches is very important as well, because they can build self-confidence, coaches, and coaches that are leaders usually instill self-confidence to their athletes. If you are a member in a good team, in a successful team that has other good players, then your self-confidence is enhanced simply by feeling a part of this team. Comfort enhances self-confidence. So being in an environment that's comfortable, that offers you some amenities is important. Of course, that's a value judgment as well, what is comfortable for someone or is not for someone else. And luck. Okay, luck strikes back again, and yes, I mean, sometimes winning is a matter of luck, sometimes being in a good team is a matter of luck, sometimes the coach that is in your team is a matter of luck, the selection of the coach. And you know, because I said that the most important factor for self-confidence is winning, there are instances in everybody's life that everything goes south, nothing's working. So this is bad for our self-confidence, and you know, it's just bad luck, okay. And this affects our self-confidence, okay. So it's also a matter of luck. This is what I want to stress. I referred to the effect of the coach again and again. The coach expectations do affect athlete performance, and there are some very interesting experiments that have been made in relation to that, about, for example, teachers' expectations and how children have responded. So coaches form expectations, expectations influence the behavior of coaches, the behavior affects the athletes, and the athlete performance confirms the expectations. Okay, so do have in mind that when you are interacting with someone, even your intention, your inner intention affects the outcome of this interaction. So if I was speaking to you and saying the exact same words, but if I was thinking, oh, these people I'm referring to should be stupid, or if I were thinking I'm speaking to the greatest coaches of all times, this would show, even though I would use the exact same words, and this would reflect on your feelings, okay. So it's very important, the intention I have, or the expectation, or the subtext of my interaction. So what to do in relation to expectations that are so important? determine upon which source of information you form expectations. Okay, so don't uh, don't just take some instances and generalize. Don't hesitate to revise your initial assessment about athletes' competence. That's very difficult because there's a conflict with our egoism. Okay, so for example, we don't want to change our initial assessments because we feel that we are right and we can't go wrong, and so things should be the way we perceive them to be, but things change. Okay, or maybe we change. Provide equal opportunities to everybody. Okay, don't just think that you know and that you can select who's the better and help people that are less. They don't potentially meet your expectations. Interact with all athletes. Everybody, Jesus, have their favorite students, but that's personal. Keep it for you and be open to all athletes. Do have your favorite ones. Okay. Communicate your expectations. Okay, so your positive expectations. Okay, so don't just take things for granted that people should know what you expect or what you think. Everybody is taught everything. Everybody and everything is taught. Okay, everything is taught. So you shouldn't take it for granted that the other people should know or should be able to understand what are the expectations, even if the expectations are obvious and self-evident. Okay, communicate them and make sure that you develop common language. And use concrete evaluation measures. That's also good for your athletes because you will have to take decisions, for example, and it's good for everybody to know that they are based not in your personal preferences, because people tend to think that when a decision is against them that you are negatively predisposed against them. So if the measures are concrete, that's good for everybody because they know what to expect. So this is the end of the second part, and you can now proceed to the third.